You are listening to the Open Mic Night Podcast with Mike Weger and Colin Ball. OMN is supported by listeners like you. To become a patron and support OMN, head over to patreon.com/OMN Podcast. Again, patreon.com/OMN Podcast.
Alrighty, welcome back to another week of Open Mic Night. So glad that you guys could join us. I'm your host, Mike Weger, and tonight we've got kind of the WWDC Hangover going on. You know, you get that whole excitement for a week, and then you got kind of a lull going on in news, but we still have a lot of good news for you. A lot of actually fun stuff that got revealed, maybe some more coming out of WWDC, some news like that. So stick around, let's have a good show. Alrighty, like I said, welcome back to another week of Open Mic Night, where we give you everything Apple, all you could want, your news, your tips, your tricks, anything, your Apple rants, whatever you want, anything Apple related, we'll bring it to you here on Open Mic Night. I am your host, Mike Weger, and as per the past few weeks, I'm joined again by Mr. Colin Ball. Colin, how was your week, sir?
It's going well so far. It's only Tuesday. We can see how the rest of the week goes.
Yeah, did you have a good weekend? Anything fun, interesting?
The weekend was good, fun, and interesting. First day of the College World Series in Omaha happened, so...
Yeah, hit that up with you, actually. You and I.
You and I went and hung out down there.
Taking on the College World Series. Right. That's like my favorite time in Omaha the entire year. If you don't know about Omaha, we do host the College World Series, which is our kind of claim to fame around here, and it brings millions of people to town, and it's a lot of fun. If you ever get a chance, if you even remotely like college baseball, you should come out and just enjoy the atmosphere. It's a lot of fun. And then last night, your Chicago Blackhawks getting it done on the ice, which is always good to see.
They did. That was both very stressful and very exciting.
Yeah. Luckily, towards the end, I mean, they were up 2-0, so it wasn't like the heart-pounding, ending to games or anything like that.
Oh, it was. I was still worried.
Yeah, so. You always do. You like your Chicago sports, so.
Yes.
Exactly. Awesome. All right. So tonight, enough of the sport talk. We can go ahead and get into the show. Like you heard in the intro, if you guys want to support Open Mic Night, I would love you guys to on Patreon. patreon.com/OMN podcast. And for every 10 new patrons we get in a week, we are giving away those coffee mugs. Just remember that. And we enjoy your support. So thank you for that. Again, patreon.com/OMN podcast. I want to thank WLMN Radio for their support and streaming us live in Grafton, West Virginia. So we're on terrestrial radio as well as over at WLMNradio.com. So a big thank you to Roger and all of them. You guys should go over and check out that site if you want some other tech talk or live music, stuff like that. They've got it all over at WLMNradio.com. Alrighty, so tonight, like I mentioned in the intro, it's kind of that WWDC hangover week. You've got all the excitement last week, and even the developers, even though we just had the one keynote, all the developers, they were there all week, and they were doing all their fun stuff. So Apple News kind of takes a little bit of a dive, but some of the fun stuff the week after is that you kind of get more analysis on what the announcements were. Last week, like I told you, Colin and I had a lot of rants about WWDC, and that's because, you have your initial impressions. So now a week later, we can kind of maybe go back and revisit some of those things and see what we really think about those actual announcements. But nonetheless, there is some good Apple news to talk about, so we're just going to go ahead and jump right into it. So this first story, the reason I put it up first is because this is one of those revisited WWDC things. So obviously, the big rant that we had here on Open Mic Night was about Apple Music. Colin and I both thought it's kind of a dead-on-arrival sort of product. It's not going to go anywhere. But, as the week's gone on, there have been a few more positive things heard about it. And so the big one was that the Apple Music payout to the music industry, that whole process has kind of been revealed. Not surprising at all. They kind of followed the same sort of process that they did with the App Store. So it's going to be about a 70-30 split. So with that $10 that you are paying for Apple Music, 7 of that going back to the music industry, 3 of that obviously being kept by Apple. Colin, is this surprising at all, or did you expect something different with Apple Music? Do you expect them to kind of shake things up?
Well, I expect them to do a little bit different because they've, for so long, especially with the advent of iTunes back in the early 2000s, I mean, that was really the first time someone was taking on the idea of things like Napster and uTorrent and other things like that, where what was another one? LimeWire.
Oh yeah, I was a LimeWire user.
Yeah, we do not condone downloading things for free.
This was back in the day when no one knew what was legal and what was, and it was the wild west of the music industry.
But for me, it's one of those things where they were the first one to kind of take on the free stuff and tried giving back to the music industry. Sure, the music industry was kind of like, you're selling our songs for 99 cents and we're getting nothing out of it. But they were at least trying to give back where the free stuff wasn't. So, I mean, it's kind of building on what they had already done. This might be more than what they've done in the past, but
yeah, and
still more than Spotify.
Exactly. It is kind of it's more than industry standard, that's for sure. It's right around a little bit above industry standard. Now, so here's the difference though. So when you start thinking about the music industry and getting their money, and if you're one of those people who wants the artist, I think a lot of us do, want the artist to get paid correctly for all of their work, Spotify is about the same for their paid service, but here's the big kicker is that most users of Spotify use still the free version of Spotify. So Spotify only touts about 20 million paid subscribers. So while they're promising the same amount of payout for the money that they're receiving, excuse me, sorry about that.
Live shows. Yeah,
live shows, gotta love them. At least we can edit that in post. So Spotify touts 20 million paid users, but a lot of those, but on the other hand, you have all of the free users, which the music industry is not making much money on at all. I think Pandora, for example, gives out like 0.0001 cent or of a percent of a whatever it is. They give out that little bit of money per play on the entire streaming service. So the kind of takeaway of that is that for these free streaming services, when you can't select the song you want to play, the streaming services like Pandora, Spotify are able to give out a lot smaller of a percent back to that music industry. So when Apple came to all of the music industry and said, hey, we're coming out with this new Apple Music, it was a little bit easier of a pitch because Apple obviously is going to have a lot more than 20 million users when this just comes on the Apple device. Even though, Colin, I'd say, we don't think it's going to be a huge success, I do think a lot of people might sign up for it initially, especially more than 20 million. I think they'll get way more than 20 million users to pay, but I guess we'll see.
Well, I think more people will sign up for the fact that it's not something that you have to download per se, because I mean, my dad, I remember him recently asking me like, which one of the streaming services should I do? And I was kind of going through the things that you can pay for, not even thinking about this. But I don't know, this might be something that would appeal to him where he doesn't have to go out and download it. It's just on his phone. He can just listen to it when he wants to.
Yeah,
whatever.
I would agree because like my mom is someone that she's always just bought her music on iTunes. And so now she was actually telling me like, hey, I heard about this Apple Music thing. And she was just naturally interested in it because it's going to be on her phone. It's Apple. It's kind of that trusted thing. It's not one of these, I think a lot of the older generation especially see Spotify and all this stuff as kind of like that new age, is it even legal? There was all that music stuff in the past. What is it? They don't even know what it is. So yeah, I think Apple will have a little bit more success there. But, still 70-30, a lot of the people still saying, you know what, Apple, you're really not doing too much to deserve that 30%. But, you do have to pay for the infrastructure, and these artists are able to get their music out on the largest music platform. So I think it's fair. I think a 70-30 split is definitely fair. But let me know what you guys think. If you guys want to chime in on that, leave some comments down below, or you can always tweet me or email me.
And one extra thing, just want to hit on it. The fact that Spotify doesn't allow you to purchase a song. iTunes, the iTunes or the Apple Music will have that iTunes integration where if you like a song, at least that's what I believe that's what I heard, where just like on iTunes Radio, if you like a song, you can like find a way to buy that quickly.
Okay, so I'm guessing then that would take effect, let's say if you paid $10 for like when you come in September, if you stopped paying, you can still buy the music without paying the subscription?
No, I'm saying that if you really like a song, like on Spotify, if you really like a song, you can't really do much else with it other than listen to it on Spotify. I think on Apple Music, you could purchase single songs to add to your like iTunes library.
Okay, gotcha. That makes a lot of sense. All right, yeah, so that's another plus for Apple. There were just a lot of things that Apple had to do when they're going into these pitches with the music industry to kind of get them to jump on board. And the music industry, as I'll add one more thing as well, the music industry is kind of forcing or strongly encouraging companies like Spotify and Pandora to go away from that free model because, like we mentioned earlier, there's such a low rate of return for the music industry. And you see artists like Taylor Swift pulling everything off of Spotify. Is this going to be maybe a little bit of a movement? Are you going to have some? I know it's not going to be everyone, but are some of the big artists going to pull away from Spotify and stick with maybe strictly Apple Music? That'll be the interesting swing. And what we learned from this whole payout, though, was that the music industry is not earning any money for the free trial. And the free trial, again, you got to remember, is 3 months. So for 3 months, there's going to be no revenue for the music industry coming out of Apple Music because it's the free trial. The money only comes when they start paying, and that'll be, probably around whatever 3 months is from after the for sure release date. Alrighty, so Colin had a nice, good story for us. We're going to be hitting up the rumor mill again. Colin, you want to take us into the iPad rumors?
Someone recently, with the iOS 9 beta being out for developers, as always, people were digging into the code and trying to see what is hidden in there. And someone came across what is a keyboard that is developed for a larger screen. So the rumor mill began saying that if this keyboard is hidden here in iOS 9, that must mean the iPad Pro is going to come to fruition.
Yeah, and come to fruition soon. I mean, if they're putting this in the code now, that means maybe a fall announcement with maybe a fall release date as well?
Yes, that's what I would believe. I would assume so, where they have this ready, because how much more can you do with the iPad Air? They have the Air, they have the Air 2.
Right.
They have the Mini. In all intents and purposes, the next step is the iPad Pro, if that's what they even call it. They might call it the iPad. Who knows what they're going to call it? They might just call it the iPad.
Right. That makes sense if they ended up going with the iPad Air line. That would make sense. They're coming out with just the straight iPad again. But yeah, exactly. No, I agree. At this point, you're pretty much as thin as you can go, and the bezel goes edge to edge. So really increasing screen size, besides software improvements, is really one of the next big improvements you see coming to the iPad. So it makes a lot of sense. So yeah, in this code that they revealed, the keyboard has a whole extra row up top for some of those special characters like you would see on a normal hardware computer. And it also adapted, like Colin said, to the larger screen. So this is obviously an encouragement from Apple lately, is for these developers to start making your apps, your keyboards, everything adaptable to all different screen sizes. This is exactly how we learned that the iPhone 6 and 6 Plus were going to be coming out with the bigger screen sizes, was that because Apple was strongly encouraging those developers, hey, you might want to make these adaptable to bigger screen size. Just saying, it might help you out in the future. So I think we're right in that sweet spot again. Would you want an iPad Pro, or at that point, are you going to go with a laptop? Because that is the dilemma I would be in. I don't have the money for either, but if I did, if you said, okay, here's some money, you can either buy the iPad Pro or a laptop. Well, okay, what do you go with? I'm putting you on the spot, in the hot seat.
The unfortunate thing is that a laptop's going to cost more.
Yeah, that is true, but not by much, I don't think.
How much have the new iPad's been going for? Like $600?
Yeah, because the iPad Air starts at $500, and that's the lowest end iPad Air.
So the iPad Pro
maybe starts at 700, 800?
I would say start at 6 and then work its way up to about 900.
Yeah, probably.
You can get a laptop, a MacBook Air with a solid state drive for I think $1,100.
Right, so not too much more, still a little bit higher.
Personally, I would go with a laptop just because I like having the physical keyboard. I'm a big proponent of haptic feedback.
Right. I'm the same way. And there's still a lot of things on the laptop that I can't do on the iPad. Especially, it's just a lot easier and cleaner sometimes. But the way they're going with the whole announcement on the whole split screen and the gestures on the iPad, they might start making it a lot easier to use an iPad for your everyday work machine.
See, do you think they would add extra ports to an iPad, kind of like a Surface has extra ports?
I would hope so. That's a good question. I didn't even think about that. I would strongly hope so. That's a good idea. You have that Pro model. Maybe the Pro includes USB or USB Type-C, at least something where you could connect peripherals.
Well, for me, I just thought of this, and Someone come up with it and then pay me for this idea. It will kind of not a dock, but a docking station almost that can clip to the side of an iPad, and we'll have the ports. We'll have USB ports. We'll have what is it? What is the port for a monitor? FireWire?
DVI
Is that the word?
and all that stuff, and
Yeah, just little things like that. I guess FireWire went away.
Data
That's
transfer,
no longer a thing.
well, the mini display port, if you're looking for
Mini
that.
display.
Yep.
Thank you.
Yeah. Well, that's interesting. And they could do that with just one connector. They could do that with multiple. So it'll be interesting to see where they go with this whole thing. But yeah, that whole docking thing reminds me a lot, like you said, about the Surface Pro. A lot of our IT guys at my old job I used to have had a Surface Pro. They plug in one like USB 3 dock, and they've got everything connected to that. They run multiple monitors off a Surface Pro, and it works.
No, yeah. One of the guys at work who, when he kind of travels between our two offices in Lincoln and Omaha, he just brings his Surface with him, and it has a mini display port on it. So he plugs that in, and then he has two monitors.
And that's perfect. And
exactly.
PTD in the chat room says, what if they combine the iPad with like a MacBook Air? And I think that's exactly kind of what we're talking about here, is kind of that hybrid. Maybe you have some connectors. I don't think that they will put a keyboard in it, obviously, because then that'd be a laptop. But
well, I mean, I'm assuming if the new MacBook went with USB-C or USB-C.
Yep, USB-C.
If they went with that, the new iPad's going to go USB-C. I think it's going to be the first one to get away from Lightning.
Yeah, that might be true. I would hope so, because you saw it, and we all predicted that when they came out with the MacBook, because it just makes sense to take it to all the other models. I think you're right there too.
Yeah, I mean, which is weird because Lightning is only 3 years old.
Oh man, yeah.
It started
I think
with
about
the
3
iPhone
started with the
5.
iPhone 5, and then so you had the 5, the 5S, and now the 6. So yeah, about 3 years
that-
old.
God,
But they
that's
did the
insane.
same thing. If where it's still to be seen if they do discontinue. But Thunderbolt, PTD in the chat room was mentioning you do connect to the new Macs via Thunderbolt. Thunderbolt's kind of the new. It does everything though. It does Ethernet. It does fast data transfer. It does DisplayPort. It does all of that stuff. And then look at the new MacBook as they just went USB Type C. So are they going away from Thunderbolt already? And Thunderbolt's not very old either, maybe 5 or 6 years, and we were always promised like a bunch of peripherals for Thunderbolt, and they're still super expensive and very rare to find, and most people end up just going USB anyway. So
I think that was always the problem with them. No one wanted to pay for it. It was really only something that appealed to. It's kind of the same thing with the Mac Pro. That it really only appeals to a certain set of people. Not saying that it's only people with a lot of money, but it's people
who use it for high production, or companies, or people pretty much desperately need that much power. The MacBook, the Mac Pro is not a just on a whim buy, I need a computer sort of product. So
no, it's definitely that was, and I mean the way they even marketed it with who they gave it to test it with, music, film, all these big industries that process a lot of data very quickly.
Exactly. Yeah, so it'll be a good announcement because I think they were already kind of hinting at it like we talked about with the iOS 9, all the integration with the keyboard. Yeah, I think it's definitely coming. I would say it's for sure going to come, but just the exact details, the exact specs, I think Apple could surprise us. I think Colin was on to something there with adding more ports to the iPad. So we will see. We will see in the fall when they come out with that announcement what they have to reveal. All right, we got 2 more stories here. Still some good stuff. Okay, so this one is kind of tickled my legal fancy as I got to reading it. Colin suggested it, but it's that Monster. So you guys know the brand Monster, make a lot of great cables and stuff like that. They're no longer allowed to make Apple-approved products through Colin and I were joking about how to say this. I'm just going to say MiFi, even though there's not an extra I, but the MFI program, which is made for iPhone, iPad, or whatever I. So made for I. So this is Apple's certification process where they say, hey, you're a company that we trust. We will put our stamp of approval on your product saying that you are certified to work with all of our Apple devices. And also sometimes it means that they will also sell those in their Apple store. But Monster, which used to be one of the biggest Apple certified companies, is now no longer allowed to make them. Now, Colin read up a little bit on why this all happened, and he was kind of filling me in a little bit. Apparently, Monster has sued Beats, and that Monster sued Beats, I think, back in January, and Apple acquired Beats last year for $3.2 billion. So obviously, Beats is obviously a part of Apple, and Monster is suing them. Now, Colin, was there any kind of, why they sued them, what they did?
Well, a big thing that happened, I want to say this story, the suit started in January, but I saw this story come out just a little bit after the acquisition. Because when was the acquisition? Last July? Last August?
Oh, I can't even remember. Last year sometime. I think you're right around that end of summer.
But whenever it was, it started coming out that the owners and the creators of Monster, the headphone line, which Beats and Monster used to be not in cahoots, but together in making the original Beats headphones. Beats basically kind of bought up enough of their stock of Monsters or holdings without Monster really knowing. So it's Monster's own fault, but they bought enough to control the company and take it away from the guys that owned it. Basically destroying one business while solidifying another, which I think is a big reason as to why Apple bought Beats in the first place. Was one, to get into the music industry more, but two, for the fact that Beats was able to say, like, hey, we have this other component to our headphones. It could make yours even better, which that's still yet to be seen if Apple's ever going to come out with a pair of headphones. But it was one of those things where Monster kind of got swindled by Beats, and Monster is not happy about it.
Right. So through the lawsuit, after this all starts to take place, Apple goes to them and says, hey, we're pulling your certification for MFI. And the term they used was that it's no longer mutually mutually beneficial is the term that Apple told Monster. Now, Monster can continue to sell the Apple licensed accessories through September, but they had to stop manufacturing the products now. So interesting, you see it's a dog-eat-dog world out there. You want to mess with the big Apple, you might have to pay the consequences for it. And one quick thing, PTD brings up a very good point that we kind of missed in our iPad conversation. He said, but they just released Thunderbolt 3, which doubles the speed of USB-C. So yes, this is true. Apple did come out with Thunderbolt 3, and I think kind of the distinction we're making is we totally think that Thunderbolt is still going to be around for the higher end products, your Mac Pro, your iMac, those lines. But what we saw was Thunderbolt was in some of the smaller laptops, and then it was kind of a change when they went to the new MacBook to not put Thunderbolt in. Thunderbolt's still a pretty small port, but they went with USB instead. So not sure if maybe Thunderbolt is going to be reserved for some of the higher end products, and USB-C is going to take that place as kind of a lower end Thunderbolt for the low end. So, but a great point by PTD is that yes, Thunderbolt is still going to be around. It's not going out of, they're not kicking it out of all their products because they did just release the Thunderbolt 3. So
that also is true for the fact that the Mac Pro is basically littered with different ports, whether it be USB, Thunderbolt, or whatever else it may be. It has every connector you would ever need to push as much through that thing as possible.
Oh, exactly. PTD even just said, I didn't know this, but at 40 gigabit per second, that means you can stream dual 4K monitors plus 10 gigabit Ethernet internet on one port. I mean, crazy. So yeah, kind of awesome there. Great story, great pickup by PTD in the chat room. That's why I love having you guys out there. Good time to mention, if you guys are not watching this live, we stream live every Tuesday evening at 7 p.m. Central, 8 p.m. Eastern, and 5 p.m. Pacific over at omnpodcast.com/live. Come out and join the chat room, join the live show, and you guys can help us out just like the guys are tonight. I really appreciate it to all. I like all of them. It's awesome. They're always helping us out. It's always good to have them in the chat room. All right, so moving on. Okay, this one was kind of a bone of contention, I think, for both of us. And Colin, you might be able to put it into words better than I can on this whole process. So take us into this, our last news story.
So the last piece of news is, I don't know if it was released earlier this week, but I started seeing it today, where Apple put out a job listing for, it's news editors, which is in reference to their new app, which is the News app. And what it's asking for is for journalists who, the article that I read was saying, journalists who don't want to be glued to their keyboard and their computer for longer than 9 hours or 8 hours a day, apply to Apple, you work 40 hours a week, a regular 9 to 5. But what you're doing is pretty much curating.
Not really writing.
Not really writing. You're curating and maintaining relationships so that the news app can have news.
Exactly. So this news app is going to be pulling in from a lot of the big news sources. Think of Wall Street Journal, CNN, stuff like that. So this new person, kind of like Colin said, they're curating top stories to have in this new news app to make sure the news app is up to date, top, and current. But like he also said, they're also kind of the client relations sort of people. These are the people that will be going and meeting with CNN, meeting with the Wall Street Journal, keeping that relationship open, telling them how to make their news sites better, how to make them work better on the news app, because the news app has a lot of nice features when it comes to aesthetics, so they can look really nice. But so they're going to work with these companies and kind of be that all-encompassing news editor. But I don't like the term news editor because they're not really editing anything, and they're not, investigative journalists. They're not going out there getting news. They're not writing stories. They're just curating it, which is okay. Do you think, though, do we need human curation in our news sources, like in the news app, or isn't human curation just what the news sources write about? Isn't that natural curation? Like the news sources are going to tell us what they think we need to know? Do we need another step?
I don't like it for the fact that, to me, it's kind of taking people. It's going to take bad journalists out of journalism. I think it's going to be people who are like, I don't really like doing this, out of the newsroom, which for me is a good thing. I like that. But at the same time, I don't like it because it's one of those things where the human aspect can mess things up quickly, as we've seen with people believing articles like The Onion.
Right.
And I mean, there's nothing wrong with The Onion. Like, I love reading it. It's hilarious. I understand it's satire. But when you're putting someone behind curating what's good and what's not, how are they determining what should be or what shouldn't be posted? Or are they posting everything?
Right. And should we also have a curator that's working for a company that's that's selling the product that I'm using to read the news? Does that cause a problem? Is there some sort of standard there that okay, well, I don't know, I don't want this big company that's making a lot of money curating what news gets to us, especially when Apple is already in the news so much. Like, how is Apple are they going to allow a lot of those articles? Are they going to stop allowing them? They say, hey, Wall Street Journal, this is a pretty scathing review of our latest product here. This one's not really going to go towards the top. It's going to go towards the bottom. So I just don't know if I like that they're human curating. If this was only just a relations job, they're meeting with these people and they didn't do any sort of vetting, then I think that would be a little bit better. But I mean, this is Apple. I mean, they've always done this. Yeah. Look at the App Store. It's always reviewed. They don't allow pornography. They don't allow a lot of illegal things in the App Store for that specific reason. And if you don't like it, you don't have to use Apple products. They've always been that way. So it's not really surprising to me, but it's just another one of those things I'm not sure if it's what we need right now. But who knows? It might actually add an element of, getting rid of some of the bad, like you said, getting rid of some of the bad news. It might help that as well. You might get rid of some of the bad articles that I wouldn't want to read anyway. Yeah,
one of the things I liked is from the article that I linked to in our show notes, where it's from Quartz, which is QZ.com. They specify the fact that they are already an early partner, along with Vanity Fair, CNN, NPR, and others they list. But they also go on to say that while I'll just read the quote. It says, some might quiver at the thought of Apple shaking up the news industry by suddenly getting into the reporting and writing business. But there's little evidence that Apple News is going to be anything more than a fancy news app. Which, for me, someone who's already an early partner, saying, you know what, you're just another Flipboard, which is kind of unfortunate because I like Flipboard.
Yeah, exactly.
It says a lot about it, where it's just like, you're not doing anything innovative. You're just repurposing a product. Like you said, they're trying to Sherlock a product, which I don't think they will succeed.
Right. And that's actually the part of the core tonight. So let's
look at that.
Maybe we can just move right to that. Maybe we just jump right to the core then. Anything more you want to say on the journalist thing, or are we just going to see where it goes from here?
Well, I mean, as someone who went to school for journalism, like, it's kind of a slap in the face where it's like, your degree, if you have newsroom experience, guess what? You can just be someone who curates these. It's like, no, we know how to write too, Apple. Like,
right. Well, maybe they're not targeting the writers. Maybe they're targeting, or are they specifically looking for people who have written before? I don't know. I guess I didn't look at the post.
It said a BA in journalism and 5 years of newsroom experience.
Wow. So they are targeting maybe some of those higher end, have written before, can do that sort of work people. Interesting.
Yeah.
All right. You know what? We are going to jump right into the core because this is a perfect segment. So let's just jump right into it.
Our camera's not turning on. We're making mistakes. We're fixing them as fast as we can, but we take it in the chin. That's part of what we do. And we went through the roof about this.
So the core, the segment of the show where we go on our little Apple rants, where we talk about the things that we don't really agree with, the stuff that Apple's doing that's making us angry. And I've had this brewing for the past week, and I knew I was going to cover it. I knew I wanted it to be a core segment. And we started to mention it last week, but I wanted to get into kind of some more detail on how this whole thing started and where it goes from here. So the term sherlocking, when you Sherlock an app, it means that Apple takes an idea of an application that maybe a third party already does really well, and they just take it and they incorporate it into the operating system, and it's just built in so that really now there's no need for the third party app. You can just use what Apple gives you. It's called getting Sherlocked. And what that comes back, where that originally came from, was back when the Spotlight first started becoming really popular and they were doing some major advances to Spotlight and adding in certain functions. There was an app called Sherlock that I actually used for a really long time, and that app was pretty much useless now. And if you go back and if you go on YouTube, look up Sherlock, because it is the exact same thing. Whenever Spotlight started to come up right in the middle of your screen and it was a text bar and you could launch apps from it and you could do everything there, that is what Sherlock was. So that's kind of originally where the term came from. But now we're looking at Apple in the last week has Sherlocked two big apps. So we already talked about the news tonight, which the news is Sherlocking the whole Flipboard thing, right? It's an exact ripoff pretty much of Flipboard. And then also they did it for, sorry, drawing a blank here.
You said Notes.
Yeah, the Notes app. So you think of something like Evernote. Now this isn't as big of a Sherlock because Evernote is obviously used by millions and millions of people. It's way more robust, has a lot more features, but in the same vein, for people who are very light Evernote users, they are probably all going to switch over to the Apple Notes because it's right there, it's built in. And you know what? If I wasn't too invested into my Evernote, kind of like me, I use Evernote, but I'm not hugely invested in it. I could easily switch. I don't use a lot of the sharing functionality. I don't use any of the high-end features of Evernote, so they went in and took that away. So my rant tonight, what I want to talk about is this actually necessary for Apple to do? Now, I understood the whole Spotlight Sherlock debacle because search into your computer, being able to launch apps quickly, being able to find data, being able to do simple calculations in a search bar, that makes sense. And that seems actually very useful and intuitive and something that every operating system should have. So that made total sense to me. And I was like, you know what, Sherlock, you got a great product. Take it as a pat on the back that you're now being taken over by Apple. But when you look at the news and the notes, apps that Apple does not need to get into and touch, is this a good thing? And do we need it from Apple? Or, I don't know. Maybe I'm just kind of freaking out, but I just let the third-party apps do what they do. And last week, we also mentioned that one of their big videos during the WWDC presentation was that they love their developers. And their developers have been creating beautiful things, beautiful works of art. And you know what the greatest compliment there is to, we'll just swallow that up and we'll put it into our own, because when it's that good, we should be doing it instead of you. I don't know. When I heard that whole presentation after I got this news, and after, I don't know, it affected me in a weird way. I didn't know if I really liked it. But Colin, is it as bad as I'm making it sound? Or is it something that's, it happens to the best? When your app is that good, it should be included in the operating system.
I mean, I don't particularly like it, especially for how we kind of talked about it last week, going with how they've touted Flipboard in the App Store before, touted how I think they've even had it on the iPad commercial before, where they've shown someone flipping through Flipboard, not specifically saying, hey, this is Flipboard, but showing someone using the idea of it. And just taking that, to me, I mean, I don't know. I saw there was a quote it was on Rolling Stone from an event for Steve Martin, where Steve Carell said about Steve Martin, he was saying, imitation is the greatest form of plagiarism. And to me, it was a great joke, but at the same time, I was like, everyone says imitation is the greatest form of flattery, but it truly is the greatest form of plagiarism, because you can walk that line of I'm not stealing it. I know I'm doing this, but I'm not saying I'm stealing it. And to me, that's just, it seems like a slap in the face, especially when they make it all about the developers and then it's thanks for your app.
Right. It really does. And this is though what happens. And I think the reason that we see this a lot from Apple and people talk about it with Apple is because Apple's in that unique situation where they sell you the hardware and the software. They're not one or the other. You know, they're not Google really just focusing on Android software, and they're not really Samsung just focusing on the hardware of the phone like Samsung does. They're Apple, so they do both. And so I think it's just a hard place for them to be in when if Samsung had done this, it wouldn't have been as big of if someone like Google had done this, probably wouldn't have been as big of a deal because they focus just on the software and that is their product. But I think the hard thing for me to kind of swallow is that I pay how much for an Apple product. Let me also support these third-party developers. I don't know. It was just a thought, something that I was kind of frustrated with, but I don't know. Maybe it is a good thing because, like I said with the podcasting thing, I do like having the podcasting app built into iOS. Got a lot more people into podcasting. Maybe the news app brings a lot more people to news. I think the diehard Flipboard users will still use Flipboard. I don't think a lot of us will switch over. So maybe it doesn't have all the downsides because it's not like they're totally cutting out the app from the App Store. I mean, you can still use those apps. They just have their option as well. But it kind of reminds me of also the Samsung Cruft that comes along with the operating system. It's like we're just getting more and more stuff that has to be put on our phones when we open it up. So I don't know. We'll see. We'll see good. But we'll see good. We'll see. I was reading the chat room and I read the word and I said it out loud too. But all right, well, PTD is just on a roll tonight. He had a really good point about that news thing. I just wanted to, I don't know, Colin, if you're in the chat room, but he said, back on the news, he said maybe they're hiring these sort of people because they want someone. Sorry, I'm totally butchering this. But basically, maybe they want someone who knows what good writing is. So maybe they're going after these people who have a lot of experience, who know what good writing sounds like, what really high quality news looks like, instead of just someone who just, oh yeah, I comb the internet and I can find you news articles. These people have kind of been around the industry and they know a little bit more. So, there's the upside to it. They are going to have people who understand journalism, not just people like me who can go through Google and find some, news articles and say, hey, here's all our Apple news. This is what we got, I think there is a difference. So maybe that will be an upside.
I guess for me, it's just I need to take it with a grain of salt for the fact that, you can go to any of the sites that they listed, like NPR, CNN.
That's true.
Sure, you're going to have 9 great articles, but you're going to have that one. To me, great writing is writing that doesn't have any errors, whether it be factual or grammatical. And it's so hard to read an article or read a story anywhere online when you get halfway through it and you just start running into errors and you're like, did you just give up like halfway through? Because Does that mean they're going to comb every single story and make sure? Who knows? Like, yes, I'm sure these people will be great at knowing the difference between good and bad articles, but at the same time, I'm just wary of what it could be because I know Flipboard. They pull in bad stories every time, all the time too.
Right.
It's just a matter of fact. Like that's all it is.
Yep, and we'll just see to what extent they do that human curation. All right, but back to that core issue. You know what? It's probably not as big of a deal as I'm making it. We're just going to go with the fact that you can still get those third-party apps, but just something that's been grinding my gears lately, so I needed to put it in this show. But this is the one time that I really, really want you guys to either tweet me or email me, mike@WegerTech.com or @WegerTech, on if you think I'm crazy or not, that Apple's sherlocking all these apps is just kind of getting out of hand. Just let me know. I would love it. Good or bad, send me a message. I don't care. Do it publicly on Twitter. I'm fine with that too. It's all out there. It's all good. All right, so that's enough of that core, though. Let's go into the seed.
Can't connect the dots looking forward. You can only connect them looking backwards. Can't connect the dots looking forward. You can only connect them looking backward.
The Seed, the section of the show where I give you guys a little bit of this week in Apple history. We get a little history lesson on everything Apple. So in the Seed segment this week, back in 2000, the Commerce Department inducted Mr. Wozniak into the National Inventors Hall of Fame, along with 6 others, including Walt Disney. He was inducted for his recognition of the invention of the Apple II, which we've covered the Apple II in past Seed segments, and you guys know that was kind of the start of the personal computer era. It was Apple's kind of launch into everyone should own their own computer, and so that's obviously a large invention that deserves a lot of recognition, and the Commerce Department gave it to Mr. Wozniak. Well deserved. I love when we see Woz in the news. I like when we hear good things about what he did. because, he was a little bit overshadowed, but he was an amazing, integral part of Apple. So I love hearing stories about him. Actually, I think you guys can tell how much I like Woz because I think the past, maybe 2 or 3 seed segments have included Woz in some way. So that is the seed. That is your little bit of tips. And again, that was back in 2000. All right, we're going to go, do you want to go picks of the week first, Colin, or do you want to go tips of the week? Which one should we do?
Do your tips of the week first.
Okay, so tips of the week. This is a scenario that I ran into with someone I was emailing back and forth with about 2 weeks ago, and they were having a lot of problems just on their computer, their hard drive in general, trash, and just printers, and everything was kind of running amok. So I said, you know what, there's just one basic thing that you guys can do, and it might fix it, it might not, it might kind of help things out, but it's basically repairing your disk permissions. So permissions on your disk can kind of get all out of whack, and there's a really easy, quick way to go back and fix this. So if you're ever experiencing any weird little issues, especially with file management or anything like that, this is something you can do. So this is on your Mac, not on your iOS devices, but on your Mac computers. Open up Disk Utility, and that is going to be in your Applications folder under the Utilities folder, or you can just Spotlight search it, Disk Utility. You're going to select a hard drive, whatever hard drive you're running your operating system on. So usually most of you will probably only have one that shows up there. But if you have any external drives, just choose the one that's the main one. It should say Macintosh hard drive if you haven't renamed it. Choose that, and you're going to select the Verify Disk Permissions, and it's going to run through. It might take 5-10 minutes. And it's going to run through and find all the errors, and then you simply click Repair Disk, and it goes through and corrects all those errors. Now, I actually just ran this for the first time in about 2 or 3 months, and I had probably 150 entries in there that it fixed. So these things, it's nothing you do to your computer. It's nothing that you intend to do. I take pretty good care of my Mac, and look how many I had. So it's just a good thing to do every once in a while, and especially if you're running into issues. But it might be a good just cleaning up thing you do every once in a while. It's like that one time you have nothing to do, oh, you know what? Let's work on my Mac a little bit. Go in there and fix those permissions. It can be very, very helpful. So again, Disk Utility, Verify Disk, Repair Disk. Pretty simple to do there. All right, so now we are going to move into our last segment of the week. I always don't like wrapping up, but we're getting close. We're going to go into our picks of the week.
It's the picks of the week, baby.
All right, picks of the week, where we tell you guys what we have been using so you guys can use it too and have a good time with it. I'm going to let Colin go first on his pick because I have absolutely no idea what it is.
So my pick of the week is a new app called Streaks. I actually first heard about it on TechCrunch, I believe. But what the app is, you can create these different streaks, which I will say it's $5. It's $4.99 on the App Store. It is a paid app. But you can create these different streaks. So it might be brushing your teeth every day. It might be, for me, mine say brushing your teeth, which is kind of sad that I have that as a streak. But it's to me, it's funny. It's easy. It's the one you get every day. I have that. I have running a mile. I think I said that. Lift weights and read for 10 minutes. And for me, reading, that could be, whether it be a book or something at work, I kind of get through that one very quickly early on in the day. But it's one of those things that it's there to help you form habits. That's the reason it was created. It's a habit forming app where every day, yes, there it is.
Yep.
It just helps you to remember what you should be doing. Like, are you eating healthy? Are you doing something? And then you can also set it for different days.
Okay,
so
yeah,
it doesn't have
there.
to be, so it doesn't have to be 7 days a week. It could be 3 or 4 days, which for the run a mile, I have it set for 3 days a week, where it's easy to just kind of, if it's not set for that day, it'll go dark. Like normally it'll be lit up with a ring around it, but if it's dark, that means that day, that's your off day.
Okay.
But for me, it's one of those things where it's kind of been nice where all of a sudden, like you see, like you have 3 days in a row. You kind of don't want that streak to end.
So it's all meant to be motivating, right? Is that the kind of purpose? Okay. So and it's working? This is why I'm surprised. It's like, okay, it sounds kind of like what it really, so you kind of get excited like, okay, I've done this for 3. I don't want to stop.
Well, yeah, I've had it for less than a week. Some days I need to turn the notifications back on. I didn't realize how big of a role those will play.
Okay.
But it's one of those things like you kind of forget about it otherwise, which I have every like few days where I'm like, oh, I have this app and I paid for it. And then I'm like, oh, I haven't done anything with it. So I need to start. That
totally makes sense though. Cause when you think about all the workout programs, what it is like 24-day challenges, this and this. So you don't want to stop. You're like, okay, I'm 7 days in this. I got to go for this many days. Kind of makes sense. It might wire into your brain and be a little bit more of like a thing you can do. So can you add in anything, or is it just, do they have preset options?
I mean, they have preset options, but you can pretty much type anything in and then it'll give you little icons. I think it picks up on keywords where lifting weights wasn't already something in the presets. So I typed lifting weights and then it came up with a bunch of different icons that looked like weightlifting.
Oh, perfect. Okay.
So it has little things like that. I don't know. The story behind it that I read was, I forget who was explaining it, but it had something to do with a writer, where the writer was trying to write every day, but they weren't. And someone told him, get a wall calendar that has every day of the year on it. So 365 days, you don't have to flip anything. It's just one big wall calendar.
Okay.
And on it, cross off each day that you wrote, write a big X in it. And so it's like the person was like, after a while, you have 40 X's on the board, and all of a sudden you have one white dot, and it's the most frustrating thing in the world. And so it's that motivator to be like, I don't want any more white dots.
I like it. I'm going to grab it. So $5, not too bad. I mean, especially if you're using it for things like working out or eating or, man, Petey would love it if I did the walking the dog one, because he does not get walked enough. So
no, and look at it. $5, that's a friggin' frappuccino.
Yeah, exactly.
Don't buy a frappuccino for a day.
When you think about it one day, just say, nope, I'm going to download this app instead. That's what I'm going to go for.
Exactly.
Nice. Very cool. So a useful app to get you motivated and going. So that's called Streaks in the iOS App Store for $5. Okay, so now time for my pick. Now, my pick, if you guys have listened to the show for a long time, I mentioned this about a year ago, but it is something so critical to what I do every day and something I use every single day that I think if you are a Mac user, if you have a Mac computer, you just simply need this app. It's for the computer, not for your iOS device, and it's called iStat Menus. Now, when you first hear about it, when I first explain it to you, you will not think you need it. I guarantee it. And I think Colin thought the same thing before I ended up, I just gave it to Colin. I have a family pack that I bought because I have more than one computer, but I have 5 licenses. So I gave one to Colin to try out. I think he likes it. But pretty much what iStat Menus does is, if you think back to the olden days on your Windows machine, when you had those little meters on your desktop that would show you how much CPU and RAM you're using, pretty much the same sort of thing. So you're having meters, but they're all very nicely put at the very top in your menu bar. So if you're on a Mac, on that gray menu bar, kind of by your clock and your Wi-Fi settings, up there it has these very discreet, nice looking little icons that what they do is they tell you your CPU usage, your RAM usage, your hard drive storage. The biggest one that I use every day, the up and down on your network, so how much data your computer is transferring and at what speed. So a lot of times I use this when I'm on this show, or when I'm streaming with Jim on Thursday nights for Home Gadget Geeks. I'll look at the thing and say, oh man, I'm only sending upload 200 kilobits per second. So obviously I'm not going to be in HD. What's going on? What can I quit to get my bandwidth back up? So things like that. Also for things like CPU, before you have this app, let's say you boot up your computer, you really do have no idea by looking at your computer it's running a lot of tasks in the background. Let it kind of simmer a little bit if everything's running slow. You might just be getting angry with your computer. But the nice part about iStat Menus is it doesn't just tell you. So right now I can see 78% of my CPU is being used. Now that's great, but what if I don't know what's taking all of it? You just click on it and it gives you a list of exactly what's taking up all of the CPU or the RAM or the hard drive space, whatever it is. So again, just a very simple thing, but something you guys, I guarantee once you put it on your computer, you'll just love it. And it does cost a little bit of money. I believe it was about $20 for the family pack, which is for 5 computers, and about $5 to $7 maybe. I'm not sure on the single-use pack, on the single-use license, but iStat Menus, just Google it. iStat is all one word, then menus, a separate word. Just something that I think every Mac user has to have, and especially for that data transfer rate, it's just amazing. Also a good way to judge how fast you're transferring files from different computers in your network. So if I'm sending it from my laptop to my iMac, it's a good gauge to tell me how fast my internal network is without going out to the internet. So a very, very useful pick for you guys. So Streaks and iStat Menus, those are them for this week. Go out and grab them. I think you guys will really like them. All right, so we're bringing this one in for a close here. We are going to have a little bit of post show, maybe like a few minutes of post show. We're just going to turn off everything else, but we'll keep YouTube going up for you guys in the chat room for a little bit. I know that someone had wanted that, so we will go around for a little bit in the post show, but let's bring this thing in. We do want to, again, thank WMN Radio and Roger for everything they do over there and for streaming us. And if you guys want any information on Open Mic Night at all, omnpodcast.com, all the subscription links, all of our affiliate links, our Amazon codes. If you shop on Amazon, omnpodcast.com/Amazon, and we'll take you there and you can support the show that way. Again, Patreon, patreon.com/OMN podcast. If you want to donate to the show in that way. I'm on Twitter. I'm at Wieger Tech, Wieger Tech. Colin is, I'm going to forget it again. I always do.
At Colin with 1L _ball as in BALL, so basketball, 13.
Colin _ ball 13. So you can get in touch with him there, or you can just email the show, mike@wiegertech.com. I got a really good question today that I'm in the midst of working with the person on. Maybe we can talk about it another week. It had to do with live streaming, so maybe another good topic that we can bring up. That's another thing. If you guys have topics that you guys want to talk about or any question, email me. But the Facebook group is a great way to do that. So if you just go to our omnpodcast.com page, you can go to the Facebook group and submit your questions. Other people in the group have been answering the questions, which is great. I like seeing that. But submit all your questions out there so we can use them in the show and so you can get an answer from me or from someone else in the community. That is going to just about do it for the show. Nope. That's actually going to do it. I've done that a few weeks now. That is going to do it for the show. We will see you guys again next week. But until we do, tech on. Alrighty, so everything is off except for YouTube. You guys are still there. So good show, Colin. Good stuff.
That was. That worked.
That was good.
I actually had insights.
Right? No, you were good. Well, and I like that journalist story because you as a journalism major actually have like real life thoughts about that, you know?
I mean, I wanted to go into journalism, and it was like, oh, look at that. There are no jobs.
Well, especially in Omaha, not too many unless you work for the Herald, so...
no offense, no.
Yeah, right.
I mean, as like the show was ending, I turned on the like disk utility that's running right now.
Oh, is it?
Only two have come up.
Are they the printer ones? The printer ones are always the one that come up for me.
Well, yeah, one of them is installed printers, which is funny because I don't use a printer for my computer anymore.
And I only have one. It's connected to my network. So Jim calls and says, sweet ending. Sounding good, too.
As soon as you were going to say, like, and we're done, I was going to be like, all right, I need to go get a beer.
That's what we should do. We should have beer time after the show for all of us who want to stay around here. But,
okay.
No, we won't do that. We won't do that.
I was like, well, then I'll go get a beer.
Well, you can go grab one. You can for sure go grab one. I would highly suggest it. I just don't have any in my fridge. So. Okay. Oh, he's going. Oh, no, he's not going. Oh, he is?
I am.
Okay. Jim says, sounding good, too. Awesome. Glad it sounds good. Let's see here. Thanks for coming out, guys. All you guys in the chat room. PTD, especially you. You were on fire tonight, so thank you. I don't know if I know you or not. I'll just say it right now in the post show. I don't know if I know you, PTD. I think you watched Jim's show, The Home Gadget Geeks, but yeah, I'm not sure if I know you or not. But thank you for coming out, and thank you. You had so many good comments in the chat. You were just on fire. So anyway, Colin, what?
I was going to say, I bought, what's it called? A can opener, like a can opener and bottle opener combo from Baker's for like $3. It is the greatest can opener I've ever had.
You can always appreciate a really nice can opener, you know?
Oh, no, it's like, it doesn't have like that stupid wheel on it, like the little cutting wheel. I have one like that here that was like $10. Never opens a can. This other one, no wheel. It's just like the sharp edge. Yeah. Oh, man. Works perfect.
Very nice. Jim says, what? No beer? I know. I'm all out of beer. So I need to make a beer run before your show on Thursday, Jim. Because I am fresh out. I got wine, but you can't. First of all, wine will just hit you too hard for a podcast. And second of all, no one wants red teeth on a video podcast. So
this is the last beer that was in my fridge. It's a Lucky Bucket.
Oh, I like Lucky Bucket. I'm
Jug
kind of a
Thumper.
new Belgium fan too. That's kind of my biggest.
I don't know. Like, I really wish I lived closer to Beertopia so that I could actually go and like get nicer beers, but I'm glad I don't because I would spend so much money.
I thought the same thing. I was like, I've always had the thought of I'm going to stop by Beertopia on my way home from work. But I never do, but I'm with you. I'm glad I don't. But that place is awesome. I don't know, Jim, Jim's still in the chat. I don't know if he's been to Beertopia. It's right next to the Crescent Moon on Farnham.
Yeah. It's like what, 37th in Farnham? About that?
No, because Ian's at 35th, so it's right before 30. Oh no, it is then.
It's
then
after.
You're right.
So
You're
it's like
right.
37th or 38th.
Yep. Awesome. Oh, PTD, you do watch Home Gadget Geeks. Oh, and Home Server Show. Nice. I don't watch Home Server Show. Maybe I should, considering I'm now in that network. Probably should get on that show, but I haven't watched it yet. I think I watched one back in the day, but I feel like there was something I was going to show you guys, and now I can't remember what it was, but oh well.
I think I just figured out why I've had so many things crashing on me online.
Why?
One of the permissions that says it's differing is for Java.
Oh, that definitely could be.
I was getting so irritated because I'm an idiot and I play addictinggames.com. I play games on addictinggames.com.
Well, that site just kind of sucks anyway, so it might be.
It's
crashing.
it's
so bad.
Backloaded with like ads and just crap underneath
Everything.
But I mean, I've never really had problems in the past where like it's run before and then all of a sudden like I play like a game for 3 minutes and all of a sudden it's like plugin failed.
Yeah.
I'm always like, I update what I need to update. What is this?
Yeah, it could be that permission thing. You never know.
I only have like 5. Is that bad?
No, that's about normal. I mean,
Okay.
maybe. I get it a lot whenever I'm installing stuff or uninstalling stuff. I think that's when it really messes with the permissions. But my printer thing is always on there. And I'm like, I don't add printer. I have one printer that I never use, and it's connected through my network. So I have no idea why. I don't know what changes that permission. That's one thing I want to dive in deeper to. Is kind of why that happens. But I don't know.
Well, I mean, permissions can get changed from anywhere. Like an app can change permissions.
Right, which makes sense. But that's what I'm wondering is like, what's changing it? You know?
Why is it flipping that switch? Like,
yeah. Oh, PTD's in Omaha too. Nice. That's you probably know this. I do. I talked about CWS. Oh, and you said you were going Thursday, PTD, right? Yeah, I think you did say you're going on Thursday.
Charlie asked us if we want to go this weekend. I said I would probably do it since he's gone after next weekend.
I'm at my sister's graduation though, so I can't. I know.
What's with you and family, man?
That family, man, it really just... Mom, if you're watching, I'm very excited to come down. I don't think she does. I don't think she watches this anymore. She used to.
Hi, Mrs. Weir.
Hey, it's actually more my dad. And I think he listens to the audio version, which this will be cut out from. But either way, I'm very excited
Bernie.
to come down. Bernie.
Oh, this beer, like, oddly tastes so refreshing.
I need one. I'm really jealous. Oh, yeah. So, Jim, I agree. Omaha meetup. So, that PTD's from Omaha. I'm dragging Colin to our next one whenever we have it again. Jim, did you decide to cancel those, or are we still having those? Those are still kind of fun, though. So, I don't know. Got a newcomer to the chat. If you're, for you who just joined the chat, we're kind of done with the show. We're just doing post show. So, you kind of hopped in on the tail end. So, once it stops, though, you can go back and watch the show from the beginning. But we're just kind of hanging out, talking with people in the chat room. Got free tickets through work. That's the best way to do it. I went to a game yesterday because of free tickets. So.
Free CWS is the best CWS.
Oh, it's awesome.
That's the only way. I haven't paid for a ticket I've gone 4 times in 4 times in 3 years, I think. And I mean, I've never paid for a ticket. It's the best.
Yeah, might as well. They're free. Well, you know, in general, admission aren't too bad. They're like $8.50.
Yeah, but I mean, there's more seating than there ever was at Rosenblatt. I don't know that on like personal experience because I never went to the Blatt, but
no, there definitely is more seating.
Yeah, and honestly, if you don't get a spot, you can just walk the concourse. Like, who cares?
Right. The thing, I used to get free tickets from my old job when we used to get the club level ones, which is the only place you can get alcohol in the stadium. And that
Those were awesome.
That was nice.
Year.
Not that that's a big deal or anything, but it is kind of nice to enjoy a beer while you watch some baseball. So.
Well, no, the crappy thing is you have to drink the beer in like in the club. You can't take it out into the seats.
That's right. That's right.
Because we were about to, and they're like, no, you can't do that. So we're like, oh, okay.
I forgot about that. So you're pretty much watching on TV like you would at home, but you can at least finish it and then go back outside. So
exactly, and I think that's what we did. I think we got like 2 beers at two different times. They have TVs all over in there, so you can watch the game while you're inside still.
I know you haven't been going for too long, but you have been there this year for some reason. I don't know if it's maybe because we were there Friday night, like later. I feel like it's way more of a party scene this year than it has ever been in the past, like at night. So they're having like a concert every single night now. And I know they've had a little bit of that in the past, but I feel like this year it's like crazy.
What do you mean, concert at like the tents?
Yeah, at the tents, like that little stage. I know they've always had that, but I feel like this year is just a lot more crazy. I don't know, maybe not.
I remember the first year I never went to the tents. I worked in the tents because the grocery store I worked for had someone they knew gave them split a tent with them. So we were in there, and when I worked the nights, there was always a concert, which it was cool. It was a lot more mellow in the first few years.
Maybe that's what I'm picking up on is more mellow. I know there were concerts, but
it's awful now.
Yeah.
Did you hear about the kid who jumped on a cop's back and then tried taking a swing at him?
No.
Yeah. The cop was escorting someone out of the mat, which I'm assuming they were probably underage or just hammered.
Yeah, or intoxicated.
And his buddy, or I don't know, it was his or her buddy, jumped on the cop's back.
Oh my gosh.
Hammered.
Wow.
And then got off and took a swing at him with a closed fist. He got hit with abusing an officer.
Oh, we got off easy.
Disorderly conduct and public intoxication. He did not get off easy.
Well, instead of full on assault of an officer, and then you could, but yeah.
Maybe it was assault. I don't know. I read it this morning before I drank coffee. So.
Anything before the coffee goes in,
I remember it, but I don't.
I feel like I should have had coffee before that first segment. I couldn't get my words out tonight. I was just like, I'm gonna have you start taking the lead on the news because I can't get words out of my mouth sometimes.
Gotta get the marbles out. Gotta quit eating marbles before you get on the show.
Know, right? PTD, what podcast do you do? Trying to read through. I wasn't looking at the chat. Josh, do we know you, Josh? You're not using a normal thing. Wait, is this Josh as in your friend Josh, Colin? Did you post on Facebook or anything?
No.
Oh, he just says, "Hey guys, it's Josh." So
I'm not friends with him on Facebook.
Oh, I don't know if we know this Josh. If we don't know this Josh, you're a mystery character in the chat room. I probably do know him. I just probably am forgetting right now.
What's the first letter of his last name?
Ooh, that makes it interesting.
I feel like if it was the Josh I know, it would have said something vulgar.
Yeah, probably. Probably should have hopped in and said something a little bit not live appropriate. Okay, well, we might bring this thing in for a close. I've got to get back to editing and get to sleep. So I don't know. This is random.
Get to sleep.
Well, I think I'm going to start doing. I might do 7 to 4 instead of 8 to 5. I think it's going to be my new thing because I do not mind getting up early. Yeah, it stinks. I'm not good at it, but once I'm up, it's okay. So I think I might just get up, get to work at 7, and then be off at 4, which is a lot better. I don't know.
Oh, wow.
I know. It's just one of those things. I was thinking that might sound nice.
I have to go to work like a normal person. Wow.
Josh Peterson.
Nope, no clue who that is. Sorry, if you do know one of us and both of us are like, who is that?
Oh, man, yeah, I feel really bad.
I apologize.
This is where he's like, man, I knew you. We were best friends in second grade, man. We tackled the playground together. We were just bros, and I'd feel really bad.
I hate you.
Sorry, Josh. No, if we really do know you, I'm sorry. I'm just drawing a blank. It's hard when you're on camera. You just mine doesn't work. So, but no.
I'm looking at my Xbox.
Thanks for watching. Either way, thanks for coming and joining, I guess. That's awesome.
I got some shows I got to go watch. You got to edit.
Yeah. Oh, dude. Orange is the New Black. Did you start it yet?
I only watched the first episode.
Oh, okay. Hannah and I watched 6 the first time we sat down. It was sad.
I tried to. I tried sitting down and watching it, but I had the attention span of a goldfish the other day. Oh. And I just couldn't. I think it was Saturday. And instead, I just went and took a nap instead.
Just wasn't keeping you drawn in. Oh, so funny story when we did it. So we start watching, and I'm like, are they doing a flashback to the very first episode? And Hannah's like, yeah, they must be. And I'm like, this is kind of weird, but whatever. I guess it's just a flashback. Keeps going. Man, this is a really long flashback. So 20 minute, literally 25 minutes in. This isn't like I realized at 5 minutes. I'm like, yeah, okay, this is all the first episode. We click back and like since we hadn't watched in a while, we'll jump back up to season 1.
Yeah.
And we were watching episode 1. So we watched 25 minutes of episode 1 before we started back. So
See, the funny thing for me, I forgot that I watched both the first and second season. Not on my Netflix account, but on Hillary's Netflix account, and I still had that. And so, like, I opened Orange is the New Black, and I'm like, why does it say I haven't watched any of this? And after like 5 minutes of trying to figure it out, I was like, oh, that's right.
that's why it's not showing up.
I didn't start paying for this again until last summer.
Well, you know how many people use my account? There's so much stuff on there that shows up as watched, and I haven't watched it, which
It's
I
definitely not
tried
us
create.
anymore.
No, it's not any of you guys anymore, but it's got my account got passed around, and especially through my sister and everything. So, like, I created an account, and I told people, I was like, okay, there's profiles, right? So I have Michael and even Hannah. Use other. I don't care. You can use as much as you want. Just use the other one so it doesn't affect me. And and then it suggests stuff to me that I never watched. It got crazy. That's why I had to. So I used to have a profile. I deleted it and just recreated mine so I could start fresh. It's the only way you can do it. Yeah.
Sometimes I hate that though, because I mean, I'll start watching something because it looks interesting, and then I just hate it, and then I just start getting all of the watch this, and I'm like, I don't care.
Yeah.
I don't want to watch this. And then it takes forever to like find, like when it says trending now, that stuff's not what's trending. That's like what's trending for you.
Okay, I'm glad that you said that because I've always thought that too. And I'm like, there's no way that that's actually trending.
No,
but
it's trending, but it's only trending for the things you've watched, which is annoying because like when I tried finding Orange is the New Black, I had to search for it.
yeah.
It wasn't in the new form.
Okay,
It's like,
yeah,
what
in
is
the new
this?
one, yeah, you're right. Because I clicked on the new one too, and it wasn't there. I'm like, there should be like a section for like the shows that everyone talks about on Netflix. There should just be a section for that. Like all your friends are always talking about it. Like Arrested Development, House of Cards, all those should just be in that section. That's what they should do. But
Netflix needs to create like the first section should always be like your list, and the section after that should be like Netflix originals.
yeah, yep, I agree. Because
And
that's
that's
what
it.
most of us are getting on there to watch anyway.
Yeah. And then after Netflix originals go into like the new on Netflix trending now, and then go into the categories.
God, if we didn't have lives and work to do, we could totally do a morning show.
Oh, I know. Like if I actually wanted to get up in the morning, my alarm goes off every morning at 5:30. I lay in bed.
Ouch.
I lay in bed until 6:40. And then I'm like, I guess I'll get up.
Guess snoozing my alarm 12 times wasn't good. But yeah, I just want to show, like, I love podcasting so much. I just want to show like this where we just sit and just talk about nothing. Now, most of those
That would be a
shows don't
great
go
morning
anywhere, but sometimes those are the best ones. I
That would be
listen
a
to
great morning.
Do you listen to Night Attack with Brian Brushwood and okay. So it was the
I
story
listen
for
to, like,
them.
4 podcasts.
Oh, okay. I listened to like a million. So Brian Brushwood and
Yes.
anyway, this other guy, they were doing this Night Attack show, and originally it was on Twit, but it was like not. It started off as I think not safe for work, NSFW, and so Twit actually like kicked them off their network because they're like, we want to just be able to curse. Like, I'm sorry, like we understand it, we'll go amicably, but then apparently Twit's like, fine, you're off, and we're never inviting you guys even back on as like people. And Brian Brushwood is like a big guy, like. I mean, pretty. If you've at least heard of him sometimes, if you're in the whole podcasting sphere, and but anyway, so they do Night Attack, which is like a Tuesday night show. There's no rules to it. There's no really flow to it, and it's completely just like off the hinges, and it's awesome. I mean, you and me couldn't do anything like that because of our actual other jobs, and we couldn't have that reputation if people saw that. But we could do like just another random show where you just talk about whatever.
I was going to say that reputation. I feel like people at work know that I have kind of a potty mouth.
Oh,
but I guess
even at work?
I don't need the people in the world knowing
right,
that.
right.
Oh no, I just gave it up.
Oh man, yeah.
At work. I mean, it's an agency setting. Sure, we are very professional,
right?
But I mean, I should be afraid, and I shouldn't like just spout off certain words. I don't say a lot of words, like a lot of bad words.
But
there are
some come out.
Yeah.
See, and I don't know. I'm exact opposite. I couldn't do it.
If it starts with S, I try to avoid anything that starts with F. Sometimes it comes out.
Right.
But I mean, like, I'll say damn. Like,
I don't. Yeah. I might drop. Well, not at work. I think I pretty much learned all this. But so I would love to do like Scott Johnson has the entire Frogpan Studio Network, and their podcast get nominated like best every time. They have like 6 on the network, 7, maybe even more than that. And they do TMS, which is like the morning stream.
Yeah.
And that's like his job though. Their entire like network is his job, so he just gets to do that what he wants. That morning show gets, I want to say, how much? $1,000 a month on Patreon, just on Patreon, and they have ads.
See, this is one of those things like.
So you could have it be your full-time job, and then that's then your gig. That's what you do. That would be fun to run a network.
I don't know. An idea just came to my head. I'm not going to say it while we're live on air, but
okay.
I'll say it afterwards.
All right.
I'll text you what I'm thinking right now.
There you go. I like that. Ken, how's it going? Ken hopping in. Ken, we're in the post show. We ended. It was kind of a short show tonight. Now I'm looking at the clock. It's like 8:09. I don't know what time we stopped, but it was pretty early, I'm thinking. So, but glad to have you out. We're just kind of hanging out. We're probably going to wrap it up here, actually. Like Colin said, he's got shows to watch. I got a show to edit, and we both have jobs in the morning. So, as do all of you, most likely. So, post show, Ken. But thanks for coming out, though. Ken, we do this show at 7 Central, which I think, if I remember right, you're West Coast, so it's kind of hard because that's like right when you get off work at 5 probably, or even before. But yeah, 7 Central is when we start the show, 5 p.m. Pacific, and then that's what we're doing. So,
sorry, I'm staring at my phone. I'm just dead air right now. I'm just clacking away over here on my phone. Oh man, people in Tampa. I really hope people in Tampa are like getting trolled by the Chelsea Dagger song today.
Wait, I have no idea what you're talking about.
Chelsea Dagger. It's the Blackhawks whenever they score or win.
Oh, that would be awesome.
Someone like calling in being like, "Oh, I can't like believe this," and then just playing that song.
Anyone following E3? Yeah, I did for a little bit, mainly just enough to follow Xbox announcements.
Yeah. Some of the game announcements.
Oh, just
holy
stellar.
crap.
Stellar. Obviously, we knew Halo 5 was going to be huge, but the one you were talking about Star Wars, right?
Well, Star Wars, but Halo's new Warzone
looks insane.
Like, it looks so frustrating.
yeah, you're right. You're right.
It looks, because it's 12 on 12. It's 12v12, and then there's just absolute anarchy.
It's like Battlefront meets Battlefront meets like Destiny a little bit. Is like the way I would describe it. And so, oh man, looks awesome.
Oh no, but Star Wars.
That looks good. I didn't even see that one until you sent it to me.
That looks so awesome.
Yeah, that looks good. Okay, but the fact, I just want to mention this. Well, E3, you might not be following Xbox, Ken, but so they announced that you can now play all your 360 games, or not all, some 360 games on the Xbox One once they start becoming available. Now, I think this is going to make a lot of gamers angry because, first of all, they said they weren't going to do this. Second of all, how long has the Xbox been out? Like 2 years. And a lot of us, like me, sold off a lot of our games because we never thought we were going to be able to use them. I'm like, well, I might as well get some money for them and buy some games for the Xbox One. So I have 0 Xbox 360 games, and I had like stacks of them. I mean, because I had that 360 for years, so I had built up quite a few games. I was pretty angry. And the only reason I guess I can still get the games back because I only gave them to my parents for because they took the old Xbox for when kids come to their house. But like the old Call of Duties, we used to get those out all the time and play old Call of Duty. Like when we were in the dorm room.
Oh man, 2v2. If we could play 2v2 right now, I would be so down.
Yeah, me too.
And that was the most frustrating thing about the Xbox One was that like it took away the ability to do the simple things.
Yeah, it did. Very true.
I mean, what game did they say where the cross compatibility would end? Like a certain year?
No. Yeah, no.
I wonder if it would be a certain year. It probably isn't. It's probably all Xbox 360.
Well,
when did 360 come out? When we were in juniors or sophomores in high school?
Probably when we were juniors, so 2007. I guess I can see. This is when I want my Amazon Echo right now.
Oh yeah. See, the funny thing is, The original Xbox. The original Xbox came out when we were in, like, I want to say 5th grade.
Wow, that long ago? 2005 was in 360.
All right,
November 2005.
When was the original Xbox? 360 came out when we were in, that was high school. That was freshman year of high school.
November 2001.
2001, so 4th grade. 2001.
Oh, geez, I don't even know.
No, 2001 would have been 5th grade. Yeah.
8 years before we graduated.
Yes. 5th grade.
Yeah, 4th, 5th grade. Yeah, right around there.
I remember, like, one of my best friends growing up, like, his family got it for Christmas that year in 5th grade. Oh, there was one night he and I were up, like, for a sleepover. We stayed up the whole night playing James Bond.
And little did you know you'd be doing that exact same thing in college.
Oh yeah, I was just prepping.
Right.
I was just getting ready.
Just wetting the whistle a little bit.
Yeah. All right.
All right. Yeah. We're gonna cut the stream here. Colin's down for just a second, but I'm gonna cut everything else. Good night, guys. Thanks for coming out. It was good having you guys in the post show. If you guys liked the post show, put it in the chat to see if we want to do it again next time. I don't know. Colin, I don't mind it. It's kind of fun.
No, yeah, it's just kind of a nice way to just come down from it.
Just slow down a little bit. I kind of like it. So we're gonna keep doing it, I think, if you guys like it. And I liked how a lot of you guys stayed around. If only maybe one of you had stayed around, we might not do it, but man, this is awesome. All right, we will see you guys later, and tech on, everyone. Peace out.